Got it. So feel free to turn on your video if you like. We're all friends here and welcome a lively conversation. I think I'll jump on in and fill a couple of minutes while others are logging in before we get to the content. So I just want to say welcome, friends. I so appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to come together. It's exciting as we get closer and closer to being back to normal with our institutes back face to face. So thank you, Pathways Leads, for the work you've been doing during this very unusual time. And thank you so very much, coaches, for your dedication to stay connected to your colleges. We so appreciate you as the backbone of this change that we're supporting together. So with that, I'm just going to give a very quick welcome information. First, information about our funders. I'll show you a slide here that really highlights the different funders that continue to be supportive of your work and really excited about the good work that you're doing. They continue to be good partners with us, both in creating the strategy and for, of course, supporting us financially so that you will continue to have access to funds that you can bring a team of up to 7 that we pay for and more for many of you that bring more to the institutes. Thank you so very much for that. I appreciate their continued funding for us. And just so you know, we do have enough funding that takes us out through the end of this strategy. So that covers this Institute 4 that's coming up. We also already have secured funding for you all for Institutes 5 and 6, which will take us all the way out to November of 22. And so then just so you know, we're already in conversation with all of these funders and a whole handful of others who are very interested in your work. You guys are making national news and getting a lot of attention, both from funders and others. So making it easy for us to brag on you all. So we're already in conversation about continued funding for the next 5-year phase of this work. We're committed to it. We know it's a long-term process. And so we're going to be here coming alongside you to help you with that work. Then on the next slide, I just want to flash this up there to again reiterate that we continue to be committed to the foundational strategy that we started with, the foundational principles. The foundational essential practices continue to be the same, and they serve us well as we are implementing and scaling and improving and expanding our systemic solution to institutional change. And so just to put today's conversation of orientation to the Institute in context, we 2 institutes ago, so November of 2019, we started really focusing on students' end goals of good careers. So you remember that institute, we started adding more and more workforce and labor market information in our conversations about action planning. And then just in this last April Institute, we again were looking at the tail end and beginning with the students' end goal in mind of further education. So you recall in April, we talked about transfer and transitions. And so this upcoming November Institute, then we're going to the other bookend on the other end and looking at onboarding and how we need to reimagine the experience of new students as they onboard into our institutions, how we reach out to them, and it's really expanding our view of what we mean by new students beyond just high school graduates. We'll continue our focus on adult education, those who are unemployed and underemployed, and talking about upskilling and reskilling, and also how we can better connect with our adult education populations. So that's a big overview of where we're headed. I'm so excited to see your teams registering and getting signed up and getting your hotel ready. I can feel the excitement beginning to mount as we move towards our institute. So with that, I just thank you for your leadership and being a part of this work with us, and turn it back over to Martha.
Thanks, Cynthia. As Cynthia said, this institute is focused on reimagining new student onboarding, particularly with students starting at multiple points, and the goals with the focus on helping students to have their program of study aligned with their interests, their strengths, and their aspirations. And the goal is to help students choose a program of study, connect with faculty, students, and others with similar interests, take a course that is related to their field of interest, and as we've heard Davis Jenkins say many times, light their fire for learning, and build a full program educational plan that shows not only the completion of their first credential, whether that's an AEL, micro-credential, certificate degree, but also further education without loss of time or of credit. With that in mind, we're going to be using the ASIP model ASIP stands for Ask, Connect, Inspire, and Plan. And this is from the Community College Research Center, based on the research of the pathways through the years. And what they are seeing is really critical as we are reimagining onboarding for multiple starting points. So the ask is asking every student about their career aspirations, their strengths, and what their goals are, regardless of where they start at the college. And then connecting clear communication strategies to reach various prospective students, so that outreach, including some onboarding teams to develop relationships with a number of different entry points, so that we have that strong transition into AEL, and from AEL into whatever future education the students want. The same is true for employers, workforce boards, et cetera. And then inspire. How do we have high quality instruction that builds on the students' competence and confidence by providing early contextualized learning opportunities, and of course, early in their area of interest. A lot of great work going on in this area already. And I think what we're looking at here is making sure and expanding what you're already doing extremely well with your pathways work. And the last one is plan. And this is the pathway connection, the clear connections that are mapped, various starting points through the initial targeted credential, but on through careers with high value, and also further education for continued advancement throughout their career. So what are the learning objectives for this particular institute? So you and your teams will analyze data, and Christina's going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes, but analyze disaggregated program outcomes, post-secondary employment outcomes, to understand the current student enrollment and completion, and also regional workforce needs. So this is the why behind why we're doing this. The what we're going to be doing is reimagining the student onboard experience from multiple starting points using the ASIP model. And then the how during the Institute, of course, is you're going to design a plan to engage stakeholders back on campus to actually accomplish the action plan that you design by the end of the Institute. As Cynthia said, that we're looking at onboarding reimagined from another number of different starting points, whether the student comes in through AEL, continuing ed, if they're coming from the military or from high school, or adults with absolutely no connection to the college up until this point. And I wanted to show you an example. So as we look at building on what you've already done with pathways and expanding it to these multiple entry points, here is one that many of you have seen, the development of the Texas Reskilling and Upskilling Through Education pathway, which is basically starting with micro-credentials. And you see the connection point of the early shop and select the career pathways, industry-based certifications, and then the onboarding with clear initial completion plan of less than 6 months, but also linking to the further meta major or further pathway. And then you see progress and success. So all of the institutes going forward, as we're looking at this, will continue to build on this expanded model of entry points. And how do we flesh this out for students as they enter into our college from multiple points? As Cynthia mentioned, fortunately, the Texas Success Center continues to have funding so that up to 17 members will not have to pay a registration fee or for a hotel. These are the suggested team members, but again, you have 7. So if there is some overlap, for example, pathways lead and chief academic officer, then you may want to have 2 people from the optional list, or you may have a person that you feel is really important to come to this. That is, of course, your decision, but this is our suggested list of the roles of which to choose from for this particular institute that we think will have the most impact on your action planning and your discussions going forward. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ryan Filburn. He is the events program coordinator for us at Texas Association of Community Colleges and the Texas Success Center. And he's here to talk a little bit about the registration process, and also we'll be able to answer any questions you might have about registration. So Ryan?
Yes, thank you very much, Martha. It's a pleasure to meet you all. As Martha kindly mentioned, my name is Ryan Filburn. I am our new program coordinator here at TAC, and I cannot wait to meet all of you over the next few weeks and at TPI4. So you probably received an email, a registration email that received quite a bit of the information for registering for TPI4. Within that registration link, you'll be able to go to our registration page where you can sign up your 7 pathways leads. But also, if you want to expand beyond that list, if you have more than 7 people that you would like to come to the Institute, which is totally welcome, there is a track for those colleges that have a discount code and those without a discount code. With the discount code, just use your code, go through the registration platform. Essentially, the tracks are very similar to where you'll be able to book your hotel room. You'll be able to sign up for the registration for the pre-institutes that you'd like to join. But if you're one of the 7 that don't have that code, it's exactly the same, except for you won't have that option to choose your hotel through the registration site. We will give you a link to where you're able to sign up for a room separately. Once you're at the end of the registration on either track, there will be a discount code area where you can put in your code. If you don't have that code, you can pay for your registration there, and then you're all set. We'll be sure to reach out to you with any information leading up to the Pathways Institute. But if you have that code, your registration deadline for the Institute is October 8th. So that is the last day that we'll be able to secure your hotel room for the event. If you don't have a code, you'll still be able to book a room directly with the hotel. But your deadline will be October 22nd. So we'll still give you that link. You'll still be able to register for a hotel. Even if you have a code, and let's say you register on October 9th, your hotel would not be covered in that instance because we're past the deadline, but your registration would still be covered. And then as a reminder, we are at the Sheraton Dallas. Not the Sheraton Austin or the Sheraton Houston, the Sheraton Dallas this year. If you have any questions with the registration process or any questions about the Institute in general, please feel free to reach out to me directly or reach out to success@tac.org. And we'll be sure to make sure that you're taken care of. So if you have any questions, definitely welcome them. But for now, I will pass the torch off to Christina.
Thank you so much, Martha and Cynthia and Ryan. I'm Christina Flores, the Director of Research and Evaluation here at the Texas Success Center, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit about the data tools that we've been preparing to help you with your advanced work. So, as you know, at the Texas Success Center, our Texas Pathway strategy is really grounded in data-informed decision-making. And we're especially interested in making sure that we're addressing equity, particularly as we reimagine the onboarding experience. So as part of your advanced work, you and your team are going to have the opportunity to read about some of the research and practitioner tools coming out of the Community College Research Center. So you're going to be guided through the work that they've done to redesign onboarding, what they've learned from different colleges and here in Texas, a couple are in there, and across the country, how folks are rethinking onboarding using guided pathways as a framework. And as Martha mentioned earlier, we can also read about the development of the Ask, Connect, Inspire, and Plan model as we start to think about what onboarding could be to bring in all different kinds of folks into our programs that lead not only to curriculum and classes that are of interest to them, but and lead to high wages. And so with that idea in mind, we're developing a set of tools with publicly available data, and we're going to ask you for some data that is not publicly available that I'll get to in a little bit to help us think about this. So who is coming into our programs? What programs are they going into? Who's coming out of those programs? And then where do those programs lead? Are these folks going to find jobs that are in demand and be able to help them sustain their families after they leave our programs? So I'm going to share with you item 2, some of the new dashboards we've developed for you. I'm going to give you a brief overview today, but I will plug our October 11th full hour data advance work, getting into the weeds workshop so that you have an opportunity to really dig into some of these things. But for the purpose of a brief overview, I'm going to share with you some of the new dashboards we've created. So first, We have here a dashboard. This is in our Tableau public page, which links here in your slides. And this is data directly from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board that shows the enrollment in each of our colleges by program area. So I'm going to introduce you to some basics about the dashboard, but remind you on October 11th, we're going to dig in deep. So don't worry if it seems overwhelming today. But at the top of our dashboards, you can search by your college, by several colleges, or you can look at yourself in your particular peer group. So we have colleges by cadres. You can look at your peer group by size, by TAC region, or by your IPEDS location. So that'll be the same on all of our dashboards, how you can navigate the institutions. But then here we have loaded in every program at the 2-digit SIP level, disaggregated by academic, bachelor, tech prep, and technical. The data is available color-coded in a bar chart and also in table format so that you're able to access it in several different ways. And you can also sort by the different types of programs and by the different types of years. And I'll explain what we're going to do with it in a second, but I just wanted to show you one of these data tools that we've created for you. The second one is still under construction. It should be done today or tomorrow, but you have access to it today. And this is completions. So that was enrollment from the coordinating board. We're also giving you access to completions. And this data comes from IPEDS. And what we're excited about in IPEDS is they've finally allowed us to disaggregate by several different measures. So I'll just show you over here that we can search by gender, by race and ethnicity, or by gender, race, and ethnicity. And when I mean that this is under construction, you'll notice we're up to program 38. We just got to load in the other programs. We're going program by program. It should be done today or tomorrow. But this is the other tool that we're going to work with at the Texas Pathways Institute, but I wanted to introduce it to you here today. The third one, so this is who's coming out. So we said, who's coming in, who's coming out. The third one is, how are these folks doing? So Elvin, if you're on the line, you got picked because you're first in the alphabet. But this is a free tool by the federal government where we can search by institution and by your actual program. And it is going to tell you the labor market outcomes for your students in that program. So we're starting to link to see how the students are going to do in each one of these programs. This is a very cool tool. And then finally, we're going to link all that together to, are these programs in demand in our area? And so the Texas Success Center has created several different tools for you. You have access to all of them. We have some high-level snapshots where we're able to see the top industries and top occupations and employers by the state and by each of our TAC regions. So you have access to that. And then if the top 5 aren't of interest to you, in the folder, in the snapshot folder, we also have big, long reports. And so this is not only the top 5, but this is all of them in order. So this is a lot of information, and that's why I said we're going to have a whole session on it. But let me go back to the actual advanced work. So that is all information we're giving to you. And in the past, we've asked for a lot of information. So now we're going to leverage what we know and give it back to you. But you may have noticed that I wasn't able to show you enrollment by race, ethnicity, and gender. You might have been thinking that the outcomes were pretty cool. And that's because enrollment by race, ethnicity, and gender is not publicly available. And so that's where your advanced work is going to come in. Now, we recognize that it's a heavy lift for some of our colleges. So we're going to look at the top 25 programs at the 4-digit zip code. And we're going to ask you to tell us the race, ethnicity, and gender of the folks coming in. We're going to give you the template. Now you may say, oh, we don't even have 25 programs. We only work with 1 or 2. That's great. The point is not for the Texas Success Center to collect this data and hold it, but more to be able to show you the ways in which you can use it. So if 25 doesn't make sense for you, if 4-digit SIP doesn't make sense for you, I'm here to kind of troubleshoot that as well. And we can talk about it on the 11th in terms of what makes the most sense for you, so that when we get to the TPI, we can learn together about how to use this data both in and out. So that was the high-level overview. And as I mentioned, on October 11th, we'll go more in depth. So,
Christina,
yes.
we got a quick question in
Yes.
the chat. Will this training be recorded to view after October 11th?
Yes, it will be. Thanks for asking that question. And it will be loaded onto the TSC website under events like we always do. So thank you for asking.
Yes. So I'm excited to share more with you. We're excited to be able to produce more tools for you to use. And so we're hopeful that we can start to build this story and tell the story as we think about onboarding in different ways, who's coming in and who's coming out, and how can we think about it from an equity perspective that way. So Martha, I'll go ahead and turn it back to you.
And we have another question.
Oh.
What is the deadline for submitting the enrollment data?
Great question. So I'm going to defer to Martha. Martha, do we set the final deadline? I think it's just right before, because as I mentioned, you're going to be producing it and using it in your team time.
Right. It would be the very end of October.
Yeah, the very end of October. And I'll make sure that that's clear along with the template that we hope to get out soon and go over on October 11th. Thank you both for monitoring the chat for me. I have so many screens up to try and share everything. I appreciate it.
So Christina, you want to move the slide forward? Thank you. So I just want to make sure. So Ryan, we have all the questions answered for Christina right now?
That is correct.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So as Christina mentioned, we have pre-institute sessions, and the first one is October the 11th, where she will go into detail with you about unpacking equity through data, and that's the advanced work she was just describing to you, both what we will be providing to you, which is the majority of the data, and then the enrollment data that you will be collecting that is disaggregated that we don't have access to. The second one on October the 28th is entitled Rapidly Expanding Short-Term Cloud Computing Credentials. And this is the partnership between the Texas Association of Community Colleges and AWS partnership. And this is a webinar that is including CEOs, so your presidents and chancellors, chief academic officers. Also, all of the Pathways leads are invited to attend. And if there's key faculty in the cloud computing area, they would be welcome to attend as well. This will be a high-level overview of all of the opportunities that will be available to faculty at the colleges and to other curriculum and other aspects of the partnership, so that each of the institutions across the state are able to offer cloud computing credentials as they choose to offer those as they see appropriate for the regions that they serve. This particular workshop, I think, will be very fascinating because it will talk about the examples of cloud computing, regardless of if you're in a rural area or a metropolitan area. So I think you'll find it extremely interesting of the various different types of careers that are available through this short-term cloud computing credential. The third that's up here is if you have people on your team that are coming to a Pathways Institute for the first time, we like to give them what we call Pathways 101. And we have included these in previous institutes. So these are videos and readings that will get them up to speed on the overall pathways. And we know at this particular institute, you may have some people coming for the first time. Those will be available also starting on October the 11th. So all of your advanced work will really be kicking off at that particular point in time. So please be willing to share that with any new team members that have not attended before. The in-person, of course, are all on the first day of the Institute from 10 to 1:30. You saw this in the letter that you received, and we're excited about the three very different types of onboarding pre-institutes. We encourage you to send at least two people to these in-person pre-institutes. The reason being they are all going to be very interactive, and each team is going to come away with some action items at the end of the pre-institute. So it will be helpful to have more than one person attend the pre-institute session. The Adult Education Literacy Program, we are thrilled to have Tamara Clunas and a team that will be presenting this. On the Transforming Institutional Culture and Adopting 8-Week Terms and Improve Student Success, we will have Dr. Greg Williams and a team from Odessa College presenting that one. And the last one, Strategies and Resources to Align Non-Credit and Credit Programs, will be Christine Barrow and a team from Education Strategy Group that will be talking about their tools and resources that they have worked with across the country and are sharing with us. So those are the pre-institutes. And again, we encourage you to sign up.
And Martha, we have a quick question. Who should attend the October 11th session?
So for the October 11th, it would be very helpful to have not only your pathways lead, you that are on this call, but also institutional research or the persons that would be pulling the enrollment data at your particular institution. Christina, anyone else?
No, I think that's great. Particularly for the pathways lead to understand the purpose, to be able to translate that to the person that has to go and pull the data in the background. I think that would be beneficial. Thank you.
And then there was another question asking, is there an additional cost for November 3rd pre-institutes? And no, there's not. That is included with the registration.
Terrific.
I would just add that there is a registration though. So when you click on registration, there's a separate registration for the pre-institute so that we can get a count, because we are going to be feeding folks lunch at those pre-institutes. So make sure they register for both the institute and the pre-institutes.
Thank you, Cynthia. And also there is a limit. So if there's one that you're particularly interested in for your team to attend, be sure and get registered early, because we do have capacity limits based on room size. So. I want to give you now a brief overview of the agenda so that you have a feel for it. This agenda is posted on the Success Center website under the events section, and it has the November Institute. And if you click on high level overview agenda, you will actually get more details than I'm providing you today that will include times and some brief descriptions. I want to highlight just a few things about this. And the first one is you will notice from 1 to 2, we have registration, and then there's a star beside that. And then there's also a star beside the 5 to 7 reception. This is based on feedback we got from you after the April Institute. After the April Institute, one of the things that your teams told us, and you told us that you really liked, was the individual time with coaches. So what we have built in is to give you the identify times when we think you might want to invite the coach to have one-on-one time with you and your team. And so the coaches are aware that they will be invited to basically spend time with you during several of these sessions. You'll see that at 2, we kick off with the plenary session. The next chapter of community colleges. We're very fortunate that Chauncey Lennon, who's the vice president for the future of learning and work, will be talking about the viewpoint from the Lumina Foundation about the next chapter for community colleges. Team strategy time, and then end with a wonderful time of reception and networking, and perhaps some of that time with your coach. On the next day, on the next slide, you'll see that we start with breakfast, and again, a time for you to meet with your coach if you like. We then move into a plenary session that will have a workforce leaders panel. On that panel will be Tony Bennett, who is the CEO of the Texas Association of Manufacturers, John Gustafson, who is from Lockheed Martin. He is their Director of Workforce Partnerships and Incentives, Joe May, the Chancellor at Dallas, and it will be moderated by Andre Alcantar, who is the previous commissioner for the Workforce Commission and is now the Texas Association of Community College workforce lead that is working with both TAC and the Texas Success Center. After the plenary session, we'll have team strategy time, and then you'll notice there's a roll-alike session. This is also based on feedback that we got from you after the last session, that you would really like to have time with people that share your position across different campuses across the state. So we'll give you some time to meet in similar roles to discuss the issues around onboarding that we are discussing at the Institute. We'll then have our awards luncheon for the Pathways Awards, then 2 concurrent sessions. And let me encourage you to submit proposals for our concurrent sessions. And that was the details of that are included in the letter that you received, but we would really love to highlight the great work that's going on your campuses in regard to onboarding, and particularly about ask, connect, inspire, or plan. So think about things that you're doing that you can share with your colleagues across the state. Team strategy time, and then dinner on your own. The last day, we will kick off again with breakfast and then a plenary session, hope and urgency of equity and onboarding. And Itzel Hayward will be leading us in this particular session. And I think you will very much enjoy Itzel and her positive attitude, but increased urgency about why the work that you're doing is so critical for the students that we serve across the state of Texas. End with the final session where you do your action and assessment planning as you go back to your campuses to take what you've learned and put it into practice for onboarding students wherever they enter the institution. And of course, we will adjourn at noon. So that's the highlight overview. We now would like to see if there are additional questions from anyone on joining us on the webinar today. And let's just go ahead and take down the PowerPoint because we don't have any additional slides. Thanks. So we can, and please, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat. Or if you would like to unmute your microphone, we'd love to see you and hear from you.
Hi, Martha.
Yes.
This is
Hey,
Christina
Hey,
from Del Mar College.
Yes,
Nice to see you.
Uh-huh.
Will we have access to the teen time questions ahead of time that we can prepare for what our discussions will be when we meet at the Institute?
Would that be helpful?
It is on my end. I like to kind of prepare ahead of time.
Certainly, if that would be helpful, we certainly can get you. What I would suggest is that we get you that the week before, the same time that everything is basically due for all of your advanced work. Everything should be completed, and we can definitely get you those questions at that time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for letting us know that that's helpful. Got some concurrence here in the chat. Anyone else? Not only questions, but additional ideas. We appreciate your time today. I'd like to turn it back over to Cynthia for the final words. And please note that anytime, please feel free to reach out for questions, but we will continue to get you additional information, and always look at the Texas Success Center events website for additional information that will also be posted there. So Cynthia?
Well, I will just quickly end with telling you all how much I appreciate the hard work that you all do. I hope you see the team here at TAC, the expanding team that's here to support you. So feel free to reach out to any one of us. We're here to make this experience as meaningful as possible and to help you make the change that I know you all are leading at your campuses. So thank you, coaches, thank you, team, and thank you, Pathways Leads, for spending time with us today. We're so looking forward to being in person in November. So with that, I'll say goodbye and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye now.
Everybody. Thank you.
Great job, Christina.
Thanks. I'm always, I think that this was on my Zoom. So I'm wondering, I'm just going to take a minute and see if there's anything in the chat that I need to record or save.
I'm going to dive off. But,
all right, me too. Looks good. All right. Thanks, Ryan. Bye.